How much did Tito Mboweni leave behind for his family? Tito was the South African Minister of Finance from 2018 to 2021. This is a thorough examination of the legacy of his highly successful life as a politician and as a private person. This is heart-wrenching. Our team went through a lot of the pages of Icon Bio's Mining Review Africa and the Conversation Records to paint a complete picture of his incredible life. Join us as we reminisce on the life of the first Black South African to hold the post of Governor of the South African Reserve Bank. What was he worth at the time of his death on October 12, 2024, at age 65? His net worth was estimated to be over $40 million as of 2024. This primarily consisted of his long-standing career in public service and advisory roles in international organizations like Goldman Sachs International. Tito earned an estimated monthly salary of $11,400 to $14,000 as the Minister of Finance in South Africa. In addition to this, he also received various allowances for housing, travel, and other official duties. After his resignation on August 5, 2021, his income primarily came from his advisory roles, business interests, and investments. These advisory roles would include his appointment as an international advisor of Goldman Sachs International, providing strategic advice on business development opportunities focusing on the interest of South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. Another would be his serving as a chairman of the bullion producer Anglo Gold Ashanti. In 2022, he became chairman and independent non-executive director of Accelerate, a property fund company. His other business interests include also being chairman of Nampak Limited, a diversified packaging manufacturer, and Sakoil Holdings Limited, energy deliverer for the African continent. He is likewise a non-executive director of Discovery Limited, an administrator and provider of medical care services. One of his investments is being a founding partner of Mboweni Brothers Investment Holdings, an investment service provider. Tito's wealth was accumulated from various sources from his long-standing public service roles, his advisory work, and his investments. His ventures beyond his government service allowed him to diversify his income. What was the cause of his early demise? While at the Mill Park Hospital in Joburg, he succumbed to an illness. His remains were then transferred from Joburg to the Mboweni ancestral residence in Maguba Skloof for a Limpopo burial as part of Tito's dying wishes. Driving past what locals claim to be Tito's regular and favorite hangout spots, it was his way of making his last drive through the place that he called home. Upon arrival at the private residence, a prayer session was held. His wake was laid in state at Sasakani village. Tito's funeral was held at the Nkowankowa Stadium outside of Tshwane in the Limpopo province. South African Police Service members carried his casket into the stadium. Mourners were led by his son, Tumelo, who he shares with an ex-wife with an undisclosed identity. Also joining the entourage were President Cyril Ramaphosa, Limpopo Premier Fofi Ramathupa, former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President David Mabuza, National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza, and other senior government officials and politicians. In his eulogy, President Cyril talked about a chart-topping rap song titled with Tito's name. It was a song written by South African rapper Casper Nyovest, where Tito's name was mentioned 75 times in the 4-minute song. Tito's name was invoked in reference to his money creation and ownership after his signature was included on the Rand note. After the funeral service, the cortege proceeded to Bordeaux Cemetery, where Tito's remains were laid to rest. The funeral service was broadcasted live on SABC, Inca, and Newsroom Africa television stations, while also being streamed live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. A minor controversy during the funeral was Thabo Mbeki being surprisingly left out as a speaker in the funeral service program. This was after accepting a family request for him to deliver a tribute as Tito's mentor and close friend. After all, it was during his presidential administration that Tito became the first black South African Reserve Bank governor. Despite the Mboweni family's offer to adjust the program, Thabo advised against it, accepting the changes without question, believing the program finalization was done for a reason. This was without regard to his not finding a rationale for his omission. Instead, he released what would have been his tribute to Tito in a statement where he described him as a frank and sharp leader, a cut above the rest in his spearheading labor, monetary, and fiscal policies. In recognition of Tito's contribution to the building of South Africa after the apartheid, a Category 2 special official funeral was declared, where South African flags were flown in half-mast positions across the country as well as abroad, as a sign that the country is in a mourning state. What was the legacy he left behind for which he will be best remembered for? Not for being just a finance minister and a Reserve Bank governor. He is most cherished for the steady hand he held in navigating South Africa through a global economic turmoil. The main purpose of this endeavor was the maintenance of the global financial credibility of the country. What stood out in his role of being the first black South African Reserve Bank governor was his approach of basing all his decisions on what he thought was best for his country without any political agenda. He was praised for his efforts of inflation control and financial stability maintenance. His implementation of inflation-targeting policies stabilized the country's economy. During global and local financial crises, he managed the volatility of the rand, his country's currency. On the other hand, as finance minister, he championed reforms aimed at public finance stabilization and government debt reduction. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he managed the pandemic's impact on his country's economy through the advocacy of a more sustainable fiscal path. One of the most important economic policies he advocated was pushing for the transformation of the mining industry. Thinking for the mining workers, he made sure the industry is aware of its responsibility towards the communities surrounding the mines, and not only to its shareholders. He believed that the mining sector can live up to its potential if it is properly managed. During his tenure as the first Minister of Labor under the 1994 administration of Nelson Mandela, he became the architect of South Africa's post-apartheid labor legislation. He introduced 4 significant legislative reforms for the enhancement of cooperation and relationship between the government and the labor force. These were the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the Labor Relations Act, the Mines Health Safety Act, and the NEDLAC Act. These policies allowed for collective bargaining and the establishment of labor courts aimed at protection insurance of workers' rights. On a lighter note, the Duke of the Duchy of Magubuskloof, as he fondly called himself, is also remembered for his questionable social media late-night culinary escapades, for which he made his way to the hearts of thousands of South Africans. He made them laugh with his light-hearted tweets about his cooking experiments and gardening skills. It showed a side of him that was real and endearing. His sometimes quirky fashion sense, such as his fondness for shoes, particularly his worn-out shoes, often drew humorous responses online in the form of jokes and memes. Tito's legacy lies in his pivotal role in the economic transformation of South Africa after the apartheid. His implementation of key policies as both labor minister and Reserve Bank governor shaped the labor and financial systems of his country. His commitment to fiscal responsibility and economic reform was demonstrated during his tenure as finance minister during a turbulent time in the history of South Africa. Tito leaves a legacy of extraordinary brilliance, deep intelligence, and tireless devotion to the South African people. If you become our regular channel subscriber, you will be entitled to an endless legacy of videos about the rich and famous.